What's good, people in the world? Today it's Rob Mega here, and we are back for another episode of Star Atlas Chatter number 11. And we're going to title this one, Slabs and Does Size Really Matter? Let's get right into it, people. So, we're going to start off with Discord chatter like we normally do and some great questions from the community. Let's start off hangar bays. Question number 1. If capital/commander ships are fitted with hangar bays, does that mean we can embark additional ships beyond the 145 points fleet limit in Sage Labs? Michael Wagner answers, hangar nesting won't be live in labs, so you can't exceed the cap, which is why we increased the default cap size. There we have it. Slabs, multiple wallets. So great question here. Star Atlas accounts won't be released for Sage Labs, meaning that we won't, for instance, be able to use assets across more than one wallet in one game session. Is that correct? Basically, Xcode answers, yes, that is correct. We got some more information about data runners and possible bonuses and things like that. So we have question, runners rank highest for scanning, but is that applicable to SDU scanning in labs? Shipto says yes. Good to know. Okay, we have some more information here. How's that? The mechanics aren't as simple as one scan per minute and no SDU from the same spot within 2 minutes. So Chipto expounds on this. No SDU from the same spot per 2 minutes. Correct. Scanning cooldown depends on the make/spec bonuses for scanner arrays. So this gets very interesting. So ships like the Visas O-Pod will have a bonus with being able to scan more often because they have the lowest scanning cooldown. We have some more here. Scan cooldowns only as good as the weakest link. So this is important to remember here. So Chipto gives us some more info. He says your cooldown, assuming an O-Pod has a scan cooldown of 36 and an evac of 43, your total fleet scanning cooldown would take on the 43 cooldown. So you're only as good as your weakest link or your slowest scanning ship in your fleet. So that's important to remember. So you want to, if you have 2 O-Pods, you probably want to take those 2 out, so you can keep that fastest scanning time if you plan on scanning a whole bunch. Okay, so we have some more information here. No averaging, set to max. The evac scanner doesn't cool down faster because the O-Pods is faster. Exact same logic for warp cooldowns and fleet time and respawn time for fleets. So same thing for warp. You're only going to be able to warp. The warp cooldown is only going to be as good as the slowest warp cooldown of the ships in your fleet. So good to know. That's the first time I saw that information like that in the Discord. So we have in-game Polis utility. Great question, because we know Polis is going to be used for a lot of the governance and things like that. But a person asked in the Discord, within, basically, I'm summarizing here because it was different, but I'm summarizing. Within the next 18 months, will Polis be used for in-game spending or only for obtaining voting power through locking? So Bunthius answers, yep, I have some utility plan in game for Polis in season 8. It's a bit premature to get into the weeds, but unlocking some ownership rights and some political ascension, basically. Not conclusive, of course, so things can change, but I like where they're going with this. Thank you, Bunthius. We want more utility for everything. Okay, so only one reason to scan. So Chipto gives us some more info on SDUs. He says you can only scan for SDUs. Quantity of SDUs found depends on fleet size, with a max of 10 found in a single scan. We learned that last week. So SDUs are all the same quality. You can't find rarer ones. So good to know. One SDU is good as any other SDU. Just get them. Okay, so this was a great question because I haven't been able to wrap my mind around hardness before. I was just going to wait till the game come out, and then I could see how it interacts when you're scanning and mining and things like that in your ships. But this was a great question here, so I'll read it off. 1 R9 with the hardness of 1 cost, will that equal 10 ammo plus 10 food plus 10 seconds? And if you have 1 R9 with the hardness cost of 2 costs, would that be 20 ammo, 20 food, and 20 seconds, basically doubling it because the 1 to 2 hardness rating? Is this correct? So Chris gives a great explanation here. And this answer is a little wonky because at first Chris said that this example was incorrect, but he came back and said, yeah, actually that example is correct. So that's why you see the sorry and the my bad in here. But just to get to the facts, it says the rates stay the same, but yes, ultimately you will end up spending more because you spent more time. He goes on, so per second rate burn doesn't change depending on hardness, but the amount extracted does. Thus, you get the same amount. You would have to mine for longer and burn more because you're mining for longer. So that makes sense. I finally understand what this whole hardness rating is, or that number, how it relates to mining and things like that. So that's good to know. I'm sure you appreciate it as well. So R3 burn rate, can we expect a linear R3 burn rate while mining? Chris answers, the burn rate won't change over a single mining session. If you switch materials, change your fleet, or if we change some game levers, it could change though. So that's good, easy to understand. The visuals of Sage Labs. So a person asks here, will we be able to basically click on this map here and then let it zoom in, and then we can see asteroids and things like that. So that's going to come later, like in Sage Starbase. But for right now, what looks like it's not going to be interactive with this first iteration of Sage Labs. But you will have a summary of asset locations in a table below so you can quickly navigate. So here's an example of one of the images that they've given us. And as you could see, basically you'll click on a sector and then you'll have a menu pop up. In that sector, there may be several asteroids. You click on that asteroid, a new menu may pop up, and then you'll be able to say, on this asteroid, you can mine let's say carbon and iron. You choose iron, another menu pops up, and then so it's all gonna be menu based as far as the UI concerned. The team is taking an extra 2 to 3 weeks. Well, at this point, another 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll get it within that time frame to make it look as pretty as possible as we have this new gameplay coming on board. So next we have fleet names. Will we be able to name our own fleets? Yes, we will. Answered by Michael Wagner. That's going to be pretty cool. That also adds into the immersion. I like things like that, so that's good to see. When ship crafting. This may be the first time we have a when question in Star Atlas chatter. So let's go with it. When can we craft new ships like the Imp miners? So Chipto answers, ship crafting is going to be a while before we implement it. We need new game systems developed like blueprints, research trees, and new resources from other drop sources such as PvE. So we have a long time to go before we can actually craft and build our own ships. So hopefully maybe by this time next year, but definitely sometime next year, we'll be able to do that. That's going to be very, very fun. And by that time, we'll have a lot of things online too, as far as player profile and assigning different permissions for your guilds and DAX and things like that. So that is going to be a huge upgrade when we get that. So now we get to it. Does size really matter? The age-old question. So we get an answer here from Chipto, at least when it's concerning ship components. So the question was, how do the Agricola ships have the same warp distance as the classes above them, not the class below? So Chipto answers, I ignore component sizing for the stats since that is completely reworked. Therefore, all core components are assumed to be the same size of the ship. Then I bumped up the effects of the make/spec bonuses to compensate. So take the SumPy, for instance, has a +2 for warp from Agricola and a +6 for warp for freight. Spec bonuses have a higher weighting. Take its class into account, then that gives it a pretty decent warp distance. So all those things go into effect. So it's not just the size of your component, whether it's medium or large and so forth. Those other stats are going to be very, very crucial. So then a follow-up question here was, so manufacturer component sizes will be changing again? Chipto says yes, very likely based on community feedback from V2 Specs, which just dropped maybe 2 to 4 weeks ago. So yes, it is going to change again. And after that, it's probably going to change even more. And next year, this time, it's probably going to change again, because that's going to be very, very important in balancing all these ships. Plus there's new ships coming out eventually. So yes, there you have it. So we have some more here from Chipto on the same topic. Lab ship stats use min tiers components when boosted efficacy of make/bonus spec bonuses in lieu of the oversized, undersized variance tables. So just a little context there. Next, we have maxed out ships. I love this one right here. We're going to close with this. The question was, is it possible for a ship to be fully upgraded with maxed out components and to feel like it's essentially 2x plus the ship it started as? So Chipto answers, that is the rule of thumb I am going for. Max it is nearly putting it in the class above. Awesome. So that just gives more context. It makes crafting and mining and all this stuff we're going to be doing, it gives it more importance that these are going to be traded on the marketplace a lot. So I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you, Chipto, for that. I like where the team is headed. So I tell you what, it was a short week this week, not a lot of alpha, but some key alpha and some things to help us as we start planning our fleets at. So that's going to be it for this week, Empire Builders. I will see you next week. Have an awesome week. Mega is out. Float the buoy.